Hey, Joe, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm very excited. I'm a sales executive with over 20 years of software experience. I'm known for my ability to help create multipliers. I've taken expertise in driving and executing strategies that I've utilized and help creating comprehensive deals and developing and growing winning teams. I have an innovative mindset that I've leveraged to help create complex sales strategies. I've had various revenue targets throughout my career, ranging all the way up to $200 million. And I've been successful at all levels. Currently, I'm an area vice president for SLED and Canada market for Elastic, a worldwide search, observability, and security company. And my teams are across the US and Canada. They include SDRs, outside sales professionals, technical engineers, as well as channel and marketing teams. I'll say this, one of the great things about it is I get to work with not only our internal people, but I get to work with a lot of external people. But the best thing is when you work with customers and help them solve really big problems and kind of pave a way for their success. I personally established 3 startup businesses within multi-billion-dollar companies over the last 7 years. Prior roles, VP of public sector. I've been director of sales for state, local education and healthcare. Winning is very important to me. Every day I strive to work harder and smarter than anyone else. I'd rather work smarter than harder, though. I will tell you that. I've become a sought after mentor. So I do mentor a lot of people. I do high school students. I talk to college students, adults in the industry, as well as coworkers and others. It's great watching them achieve their goals and ultimately helping them get to where they need to be. So I'm proud to have earned the reputation as the positive energy go-to person in the organization. And I have a motto that I say, live to give. So it's important to give back. Married for 29 years, have 2 kids, they're out of the house. Well, that's kind of me. I mean, I left out a few things. I know it's kind of long, but I was homeless when I was 18 years old. I didn't get a college degree till I was 40. So there's a few things in there that I left out.
Well, you hit on something I triggered on, multiplier. What does that mean to you?
Well, there's a book called Multipliers, which I absolutely love. It talks about, when you walk in the room, don't be the smartest person in the room, but be the person that helps create the smartest people in that room.
And how do you do that?
Well, I mean, you have to mentor with people. You have to, each day you have to engage with them. You have to get into the hearts and minds of the people that work for you. And one of the things that I do is everyone that works for me has to fill out what's called a personal scorecard. So what it talks about is, why are you in it? What is it you want to do? What does failure look like? And also I talk about what is your vision board? I think everyone should have a vision board so that you know where you want to go and what you're playing for.
And do you find a lot of people don't have that? They don't have their why?
They do not. But when they work for me, they have their why.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time on it. Any team that I take over, it's one of the first things that we do. I have this, not a course, but a presentation I walk them through. It's called, what does it take to get an A in sales? So I tell them up front what the expectations I have for them to be on my team. I don't wait until it's a review time. I grade every sales call that we're on. We talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what could we have done better, so that every moment is a teachable moment when you have a team. And it's amazing what, the leaders that we've developed. I've personally have multiple people that I've mentored that have went on to become, district managers, VPs, and executives at many different companies.
And where did you come up with that grading? Because I love that, because I talk to too many people that they only focus on how many instead of how well.
I learned it from a mentor, actually. So and by the way, I think it's very important that everyone have mentors. So I had a mentor that taught me, he's like, Joe, you need to let everyone know how they're doing. Don't be afraid to tell people where you stand and what's going on. I do see with some leaders out there, they don't let people know what's happening. And so if you walk out of that call and something has went wrong, you need to bring that up. But I always start with a positive. I always thought what went well. And I do this thing, I don't know if you'll like it, but I said on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning it was the best call we've ever been on, we probably got a PO on it, or 1 meaning we'll never see them again. Where are we at? When I started doing this when I became a leader, the reps would say, no, what do you think? It's not about what I think. I want to understand how you felt that it went. And it is a pain point when a rep thinks you're at a 9 and you actually had a 6. And, you have to talk about that to them. So again, so that it's a learning moment.
Yes. Well, that's so critical. And I love how you push it back on them.
Well, you have to.
You have to, because if you say, well, you talk too much, then they're going to argue with you, or they're going to, that next time they're not going to say anything. Right?
They're not going to do anything. And by the way, I had a rep do that to me once. He's like, I'm going to run this. I don't like how, sometimes because sometimes I will interject, if something's going on. I said, okay, we went to a meeting. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. He ran. And so when we walked outside, I go, okay, let's grade this one. I go, how do you think it went? He goes, it was a 1. He goes, it's the worst meeting I ever ran. He goes, why didn't you help me? I said, you told me not to. So I didn't. And it is hard as leaders. Sometimes we want to go in and save people on calls. So that's one thing that I've learned. You just don't do it. The rep will never learn if you're answering all the questions, even though you know it. You've made 10,000 sales calls in your career or more. You kind of know what the response should be, but you have to let them get there so that they learn it for the next time.
Well, something I learned a long time ago was, people will ask you, well, when do you work on your skills?
Every day.
Well, this rep said, I never stop working on my skills. It's that pre-call planning. You're in the car, you're at breakfast. I always ask this question, how do you think this call will go?
Yes, that's a great question. And, I'm all about the pre-call planning. I mean, I don't understand why someone would walk into a meeting and not have a plan in order and what needs to be executed. It happens all the time. So if I'm on a call, the rep has to have a pre-call planner before we walk into the meeting. Well, we have to have it before. So, but they have to have it done so that we understand. And I don't know, you ever had a rep tell you like, hey, this is the closing meeting? And, one of my questions to him is like, does the customer know? Do they know that we're walking in? Is it that this is a closing thing? They're like, what do you mean? Well, do we have the people in the room that can make that decision? So many reps don't understand. You can say to the customer, by the way, here's where we're at in the process. Based on what we've talked about, I think here's where we are. And I think we're at a point where we can actually come to an agreement. What you had said back in October is we needed this person, this person, and this person in the room in order to do that. Do you feel like we're at that stage? And people don't ask. And, one of the other things that I noticed, my team has to do this. On pre-call planning, we were walking into, I won't name names, but we were walking into a deal that was, it was a multi-million-dollar deal. And I told the rep, we had 2 days before, I said, we're doing a pre-call. I'm going to be the customer. You're going to be the rep. He started walking through the meeting. I said, I wouldn't even buy from you if you started out like that. And he was like, what? So we did walk through the meeting. And, I think it's important when you get into one of those meetings to recap with the people that are in the room. You need to let them know why you're there and what's happening, because a lot of times they'll bring people in that need to be the decision makers that don't have any idea why they're in the meeting. Yeah, no context. So we walk through that and say, okay, here's why we're here. We started at this date. We walk through these business problems. It's costing your organization this amount of money. Here's the impact to you. You wanted to make a decision by here because of this. And, I just think that's so important.
Well, I always use the analogy of how long did it take you to get this meeting?
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't 15 minutes.
No, not
it was
at all.
Probably 15 months sometimes.
Exactly.
Can you spend an hour thinking through who's going to be there? What do they want out of it? How do we get what we want out of it? And how do we keep that time hyper-focused?
Totally. You need to understand what's going on. It's not about showing up and throwing up. It's going in
or seeing what they have to say.
Right.
See how it goes.
I had a rep once. We were getting ready for preparing for a meeting, and I said, hey, have you looked at their strategic plan? I knew it was online, based on the customer that we were going to see. He's like, oh, their website is, this or that. And I said, hang on a minute. And I pulled it up, and 30 seconds. And I go, you're totally unprepared for this. You need to get prepared. And you have, that's the thing, as a leader, I don't think you don't need to be an ass. You don't need to be, all the time. What you do need to do is you need to be teaching them so that the next time it comes up, it doesn't happen again.
Well, it always comes back to like Solomon's paradox for me, where somebody who's not in the game can see the problem clearly. Somebody who's in the game is too focused on what they're doing.
I totally agree with you. They're not seeing the things that are over here. They're so focused here. Right. But if you don't get everything together, you'll never bring it to where you can actually.
Right, because half the time they could talk to their friend who knows nothing about sales.
Right.
And they'd be like, well, did you check out their website and where they're going?
I do it all the time. I will not go see someone unless I've checked them out on LinkedIn. I've Googled their name. I mean, if this individual has made time for us to come in and present, everybody's time is extremely valuable. So you can't go in and waste it, because you got sometimes one shot, first impressions. And if you make a bad impression, they'll never let you come back.
Well, let's get back to what it takes to get an A in sales. Mm-hmm. I'd be real interested to hear that.
Sure. So one of the things I talk about, I focus on, forecasting. I think forecasting is it's one of the well, it's not the most important job that we do. I mean, I think hiring the right talent is one of the most important things that we do. So I actually let my team know, here's a criteria when you're going to be forecasting something with me. Here's the questions I will be asking. I also say, here's the things I don't want to hear. Okay. I don't want to hear this, or this. And because, excuse city comes up all the time, right? Or, I say, is the individual going to be on vacation? Do we know that? Is there a committee that needs to sign off on this? How long is the purchasing cycle? You ever have a rep say, oh, we're gonna get the PO next week, and you're like, okay, purchasing cycle, well, I don't know. Well, then how could you possibly know? So I walk through a lot of things like that, Brian, so that they can, I just let them know here's the things you're going to be measured on, and measure what matters, right? You look at the things that are important. We talk about pipeline, and listen, it's not, you need good pipeline. You don't need bad pipeline. I don't need junk in Salesforce so that people can look good. I need quality, not quantity. And you need to ask certain questions to make sure that this is a real deal. Do you have a champion? Have they tried to solve this problem? What is the problem? How big is the problem? If you don't know how big the problem is, then they're not going to buy $200,000 worth of software to solve a $25,000 problem. So you have to walk through that.
Well, I like that you have the questions written and given to them.
Absolutely.
Because I think too many managers try and either trick them up, or they don't ask consistent questions. Like, who have you talked to there? Who have you met with? And it's usually one person.
Right.
And it's in procurement. Okay, who's the purchasing agent's name?
They don't know.
Of course, it's not in purchasing. It's still in their email box.
Right. Yeah, it's still in their email box. And you have to, my teams that work for me though, know that I'm going to ask the question. They say, Joe, you're a broken record. They know when they walk into the room, they need to have that. And, and I talk about my about your vision board. So I'll give you an example. I had a rep who was giving his QBR, and he had already filled out his vision board from, time before. He gets to the end, and I look at him and I said, this is not his name, but I said, Bob, I said, based on the QBR that you just gave, are you going to be able to hit your vision board, the things that you want to do? And I knew what they were. So I brought him up. I go, are you going to be able to do this, this, and this? And he said, no. I go, so what do you think? And he goes, I think I should have done a better job. He goes, I'm what I put up here and what I'm doing, because you have to, that was the second QBR that rep had went through me. But if you tie, in what it takes to get an A, if you tie their vision to when you talk to them to motivate them, you need to know that these are the things, are what you're doing today, is that helping you get to where you want to be? And I really stress on goals. So goals is a big part of this. I think I'm very goal oriented. I have been for a long time. If you don't have goals, then you don't know where you're going or what, you're following somebody else's goals if you're not trying to do your goals.
Well, that's the power of the why. It's not what the company wants, it's what you want.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're going to do it for you a whole lot easier than you're going to do it for someone else or the company.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
And psychologically, our subconscious is constantly asking, why am I doing this?
Right.
Where's the food? Where's the nap?
Right. Exactly. I mean, this is a hard job that we do. It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
People think it's easy, but this is a hard job, but it's the most rewarding job you could possibly have. I love my job. I absolutely love what I do. I don't think I would want to be doing anything else. Well, I wouldn't. I love my job and I love my company. I work for a great company. One of the other things I do stress, Brian, is close dates. So I think reps who put the 30th close date, I think it's insane. I think it's absolutely insane. You need to back that up, at least I say to the 15th or the 20th or something like that. Because here's the thing. If a deal slips on the 15th, you got a shot at getting it. If a deal slips on the 30th, it's gone, blows your forecast, bad times. So you have to change the mindset of the reps that are out there that the 30th is bad. And you can change the customer's mindset if you put a stake in the ground early in the process.
Right. Because then when purchasing or even they see the 30th, what goes through their mind? Oh, it's the end of your quarter, your month, your year.
Right.
So that I'm doing this for you instead of me. Plus, you make that great point. And guess what? Purchasing is sitting around doing almost nothing 3 weeks of the month. And then the last week of the month, they're busy as can be. And just by chance, yours might not be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And then you got to hold that pricing next month. And it's such a simple thing to do, but lazy people just, it's just the end of the month.
That's when the customer buys. The customer buys on the 30th. They buy everything on it's like, no, they don't. They don't. Guess what? They send out purchase orders on, the 3rd of the month, the 5th of the month, the 10th of the month, every day of the month. There's a purchase order going out that door somewhere.
And I hate to say it, but the high achievers don't end up in procurement. It's people who get power by slowing things down, not speeding them up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that.
Well, I like your focus on the forecasting, because that's where reps develop judgment skills.
For sure. Yes. That's where they figure out, and when you ask the questions and they don't know, and again, when you take over a team, it's different because they have to learn your forecasting method. Because, I realize everyone has something a little bit different. So that's why when I take over a team, I go, here's what I'm going to be asking you. So when you come to the meeting, be prepared. And they know that they need to have the answers to these particular questions. Something like as easy as, does legal need to get involved? How long is their legal process going to take? Have they tried to solve this problem before? If they've been working on it for 10 years. Well, you know what? That customer may not really be a customer. Yeah. And have you heard of those, Brian, where they've been looking to solve this problem forever, but still haven't solved it?
Well, it can't be much of a problem.
I totally agree. Yes, it can't be that much of a problem. And I always say, don't be average. Don't be average. Average people are broke. So you need to be above average.
And I also like what you said about hiring being so important.
Absolutely.
Because if you hire right, everything else is pretty easy. You hire bad, it's just nothing is easy.
You've basically lost the territory for possibly a year and a half. If you make the wrong hire, if that person isn't doing, and by the way, I've made bad hires before, I realize that. But when I look at it, you look for, kind of like, what are the core value things that you need to look for? Does it have integrity? What are the results that person is? Are they honest? Do they deliver on the promises that they've talked about? Or have they exceeded their expectations? And I always hire continuous learners. So first question, one of the questions I ask is, what was the last book you ever read?
Yeah.
Silence. But some of the great people that I've hired, they're all readers, or they listen to podcasts, or they're trying to do different things with their skills all the time. I mean, me, myself, I break it down by quarter. I listen to 3 books every quarter. So it's basically a book a month. The first month I listen to a sales book. The second month I listen to a leadership book. And the third month I get to listen to whatever I want to. And I've been doing that for years so that I continuously be learning all the time. Because the day you stop learning, you need to just stop.
Well, the continuous learning shows curiosity, which is the first step to empathy.
Right.
Which is the biggest part of emotional intelligence. So without that, a rep doesn't have much.
Right.
Because you got to be curious about why are they going to buy? What's causing this? How do you do it politically, administratively, and economically? And it's a lot more work than people think. People think it's just like show up, present, demo, quote, negotiate, close. And it's like, I don't know about you. My deals don't go like that.
They never do. There's a lot of things. And there's always, you need to be prepared for the, oh no, this just happened. I mean, I think when you're having these deals, you need multiple, you have to have multiple connections within the organization, because this person could leave the company or get sick or not be there, or, so you have to be able to, have someone who is connected within a lot of different areas.
And as you developed as a leader, what were some of the key epiphanies or milestones where the lights went on?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I realized that I needed to make sure I was connected with my people. I mean, I think that's so important. And I learned something from a customer. So before I became a leader, he knew I was going to become a leader. And he told me, his name's Jeff. And he goes, Joe, something that I do is, he goes, I send a letter to the spouses of every employee that works for me. And so I do that. It was an epiphany that I'm like, you know what, that's something I'm going to do. So every year I write 1 to 2 letters handwritten to every person's spouse or significant other, girlfriend, or whoever they're with, and thank them for allowing that individual. I realize this is a very difficult job. It takes away from family time and everything else. So I try to not only make sure I'm connecting with the employee, but I want to make sure I'm connecting with the family. So that was one thing.
How about another one?
Well, again, I think with me, it was, you don't have to be an ass to be a leader. I mean,
command and control is not the.
I think we've all maybe worked for some difficult people, and I'm like, this is not the way I would want to be treated, and so I don't treat my employees that way. I'm firm but fair is how I'm described. I'm very direct. I absolutely am a direct person, but and I realized that was something else. You can tell the employees that things are wrong. You can say no, but you need to. Another thing is complainers. So there's a lot of complainers out there. And I've been in groups where the complainers take over. So I decided as a leader that I was not going to allow that. They can speak their mind, but they have to come with a solution to what the problem is. And that was something else that I've learned over time.
Yeah, and I think that's something to look for in the interview process, that personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have that in sales, because sales is nothing but personal responsibility.
I mean, you're the CEO of your own company.
Right. You're not the journalist. You're not the field reporter.
Right. It's
you're the soldier. You're supposed to capture the town, not report on what's wrong with the town.
Right. You're the one that puts food on your table. But I do look for team players, because I don't think no one can do this alone. I mean, I look at some of the great engineers that I've had the privilege to work with, some of the marketing people, the channel folks. I mean, I've worked with some awesome people because I try to assemble great talent. And when you do that, things run much, much smoother, as you said.
And when you see people becoming leaders for the first time, what are the classic mistakes that you see them doing?
They try to be, they're basically super reps. A lot of times they actually, the first thing they try to do, they see something, they jump on it and try and and go and fix it. Or they, as they're talking to people, and by the way, I've mentored a lot of new reps, and there's a book out. I don't know if I can mention it or not, but it's great for reps who become leaders. But I try to walk them through those things so that they don't make those mistakes, and the biggest thing I try to teach them is connect with the people.
Yeah, because that's where it really happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because too often it's command and control and actors, and like nobody's really understanding what each other is doing, and neither one enjoys it.
Right.
And it turns into a stalemate, but the manager always wins. So the rep thinks they have left, and it just turns into that year-long, come to Jesus thing where neither person is really given an inch.
Right. Yeah, but like I say, ultimately, the leader, the leaders, will win. But you need to be a leader though that listens, and if they're right, then you need to let them know that they're right. The leader's not always right. Okay, we do make mistakes. We're human beings, so you need to admit, that, hey, okay, you know what, you're right on this.
Cool. Hey, Joe, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Absolutely. Hey, it's been great. You can go to either LinkedIn or you can go to Twitter. I'm Joe Mara at Twitter, and at LinkedIn, it's Joseph Mara.